Being able to simplify rational functions is going to be very important to us moving forward. So all of the different operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, we will always simplify at some point in those questions. So take your time on this lesson and really understand how to simplify. When we simplify rational expressions, what we're trying to do is we're going to factor pretty much everything. We're going to factor everything, and we are going to restrict the domain before we reduce anything so that we know what x can't be. And then we're going to reduce. So notice here, this is a very simple example. 5x plus 10 over x plus 2, I would factor the numerator into 5 times the quantity of x plus 2. And then notice I've got an x plus 2 as a factor on top and on bottom, which can cancel. So if I reduce it, my result is 5, but I still can't have a negative 2 because if I plug a negative 2 in, that gives me 0 as a denominator. So let's try some practice. Again, it might be helpful to have your cheat sheet that says how to factor everything, because obviously everything's about factoring this week. So the first thing I would do on the numerator is to take a 2 out of everything, and that would give me x squared minus 6x plus 9. And the denominator, I would take a 4 out of everything, which would give me x squared minus 9. And then I would continue my factorization. So I see there's a 2 and a 4. I'm just going to wait until the end to factor everything. The numerator factors into x minus 3, x minus 3. The denominator factors into x plus 3, x minus 3. And at this point, I will now start to reduce. So x minus 3 will cancel with one of the x minus 3's. The 2 and the 4 would reduce to 1 and 2. And now what I have left is 1 and x minus 3, which is just x minus 3. You don't need to write it in parentheses, but you can. The denominator, I have a 2 and an x plus 3, and I will not distribute that 2 back out. Okay, so I will leave it just like that. What were the restrictions on the domain? I should have done that before I reduced anything, but I know that x cannot be negative 3 from that binomial and positive 3 from this binomial. So that's the 2 restrictions on the domain. Let's try another. Again, we're always going to reduce, reduce, reduce. So 8x minus 6 has a common factor of 2, which gives me 4x minus 3. My denominator, it looks like I can take an x out of both things, which gives me 3 minus 4x. And this is one of those where, gosh, I really want to be able to reduce these, but in this one the 4 is positive and the 3 is negative, and this one the 3 is positive and the 4 is negative. And so remember, we're going to use that negative technique where basically I'm factoring out a negative 1. So my numerator will stay the same, but my denominator, this 3 minus 4x, I'm going to take a negative 1 out of it, which will make it negative 3 plus 4x. Because I'm changing both signs. And then we can see the 4x is positive, the 3 is negative, and so I'm going to have a negative x, because negative 1 times x, and then 4x minus 3. And now I can reduce. So again, I replaced this with this, and now I can reduce the 4x minus 3's, and that's it. So 2 over negative x, I'm going to plug that negative out front instead. My restrictions on the domain would have been 0, because if you have an x out here by itself, I know it cannot be 0. And then also positive, nope, hold on, 4, nope, positive 3/4, positive 3/4. Again, you can do that by setting this equal to 0 and solving, and you get positive 3/4. This one looks fun. So again, we're going to do some serious factorization. Always start with the GCF. It makes it so much easier. I'm going to take out a 2x out of everything here, which gives me x squared plus 6x plus 8 on the numerator. The denominator, it looks like I could take a 6 out of both terms, so x plus 4. Again, before I reduce anything, I'm going to factor completely. So I would call this x plus 2, x plus 4. In my denominator, I've already factored completely. And now I will start reducing. So x plus 4 reduces with x plus 4. I always have a question, can I reduce the 2x and the 6? Yes, because it's like a 2 times x, so it's okay. I'm going to reduce this and reduce this. It's okay that I didn't mess with the x. It's sort of separate anyway. And now what I have left on the top is an x and a 1. So 1x and x plus 2. So x plus 2. On the bottom, I only have a 3. And that is my final simplification. Oh, the restriction on the domain is x cannot be negative 4, because if I set this equal to 0, I would end up with negative 4. This is one for you to try on your own, so do the entire question, then press play to see how you did. G of x, I will reduce the top to x plus 2 times 5. The denominator looks like I can reduce to x minus 4, x plus 2. I will finally remember to do my restrictions on the domain right here. So x cannot be 4 or negative 2. And now I'm going to reduce. X plus 2, x plus 2. Looks like nothing else is going to reduce, so my answer is 5 over x minus 4.